and welcome to Fox News. I'm Preston Asher. Today we are going to describe the second most important day in American history behind the day the Republican Party was created. We are going to describe the creation of the Constitution. On May 25th, 1787, the Constitutional Convention opened in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence had been adopted 11 years earlier. There were 55 delegates in attendance, representing all 13 states, except for Rhode Island, which refused to send representatives because it did not want a powerful central government interfering with its economic businesses. But who needs their commie vote anyways? George Washington, who had become a national hero after leading the Continental Army to victory during the American Revolution, was selected as president of the convention by unanimous vote. The delegates had been tasked by Congress with amending the Articles of Confederation. However, they soon began deliberating proposals for an entirely new form of government. After intense debate, which continued throughout the summer of 1787 and at times threatened to derail the proceedings, they developed a plan that established three branches of national government: executive, legislative, and judicial. A system of checks and balances was put into place so that no single branch would have too much authority. The specific powers and responsibilities of each branch were also laid out. For now, a commercial break. And we're back with Fox News. Today we are discussing the creation of the Constitution. To continue along, among the more contentious issues was the question of state representation in the national legislature. Delegates from larger states wanted population to determine how many representatives a state could send to Congress, while smaller states called for equal representation. The issue was resolved by the Connecticut Compromise, which proposed a bicameral legislature with proportional representation of the states in the lower house, also known as House of Representatives, and equal representation in the upper house, also known as the Senate today. Another controversial topic was slavery. Although some of those too liberal to be any good northern states had already started to outlaw the practice, they went along with the far more superior southern states' insistence that slavery was an issue for individual states to decide and should be kept out of the Constitution. Many northern delegates believed that without agreeing to this, the South wouldn't join the Union. For the purposes of taxation and determining how many representatives a state could send to Congress, it was decided that slaves would be counted as 3/5 of a person. Additionally, it was agreed that Congress wouldn't be allowed to prohibit the slave trade before 1808, and states were required to return fugitive slaves to their very gracious owners, such as my great-grandfather, Clayton Asher. By September 1787, the convention's 5-member Committee of Style, which included Hamilton, Madison, William Samuel Johnson of Connecticut, and Gouverneur Morris of New York, had drafted the final text of the Constitution, which consisted of some 4,200 words. On September 17th, George Washington was the first to sign the document. Of the 55 delegates, a total of 39 signed. Some had already left Philadelphia, and 3, which included George Mason, Edmund Randolph of Virginia, and Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts, refused to approve the document. In order for the Constitution to become a law, it then had to be ratified by 9 of the 13 states. We'll get an alternate opinion on this in a little bit, but first, a commercial break. And we're back with Fox News' report on the creation of the Constitution. Here today is Rand Johnston of Iowa. Welcome, Rand.
Thank you, Preston. James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, with assistance from John Jay, wrote a series of essays to persuade people to ratify the Constitution. The 85 essays, known collectively as the Federalist, or the Federalist Papers, detailed how the new government would work and were published under the pseudonym Publius, for public, in newspapers across the states starting in the fall of 1787. People who supported the Constitution became known as Federalists, and some opposed it because they thought it gave too much power to the national government, and they were called anti-Federalist.
Thank you, Rand. Continuing. Beginning on December 7th, 1787, 5 states, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut, ratified the Constitution in quick succession. However, other states, especially Commie-Pact Massachusetts, opposed the document as it failed to reserve undelegated powers to the states and lacked constitutional protection of basic political rights, such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of press. In February 1788, a compromise was reached, under which Massachusetts and other states would agree to ratify the document, with the assurance that amendments would be immediately proposed. The Constitution was thus narrowly ratified in Massachusetts, followed by Maryland and South Carolina. On June 22nd, 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the document, and it was subsequently agreed that government under the U.S. Constitution would begin on March 4th, 1789. George Washington was inaugurated as America's first president on April 30th, 1789. In June of that same year, Virginia ratified the Constitution, and New York followed in July. On February 2nd, 1790, the U.S. Supreme Court held its first session, marking the date when the government was fully operative. Rhode Island, the last holdout of the original 13 states, finally ratified Constitution on May 29th, 1790. Let's go talk to some operatives of Rhode Island.
Hello, I'm Michael Moore here today to interview an everyday citizen about the Constitution of the United States. What do you have to say about the Constitution of the United States of America?
Well, the Constitution is a great thing. It protects the individual liberties of each citizen. However, the modern-day GOP is trying to infringe upon some of the rights that every U.S. citizen should have. Freedom of speech and freedom of expression are both guaranteed to us under the Constitution. However, the GOP wants to restrict things, and they want to include religion in schools, which heavily violates the First Amendment.
Well, that's an interesting opinion, but can we really trust these commie Chinamen and their friend Kim Jong-il in North Korea? I think not, America. Continuing on, in 1789, Madison, then a member of the newly established U.S. House of Representatives, introduced 19 amendments to the Constitution. On September 25th, 1789, Congress adopted 12 of the amendments and sent them to the states for ratification. 10 of these amendments, known collectively as the Bill of Rights, were ratified and became part of the Constitution on December 10th, 1791. The Bill of Rights guaranteed individuals certain basic protections as citizens, including freedom of speech, religion, and the press. One of the most important rights, the right to bear and keep arms, the right of peaceably assemble, protection for unreasonable search and seizure, and the right to speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. For his contributions to the drafting of the Constitution, as well as its ratification, Madison became known as the Father of the Constitution. Now, you all know why the creation of the Constitution is a very important day in American history. While some of these liberals, with their homosexual agenda and their equal rights protests, will tell you it is not, just remember, those Democrats are the enemy of our nation, or as I like to call them, friends of Osama. Thank you, America, and have a nice night.